This is Sonic.Exe for Dummies. So basically, Sonic.Exe is a crappy old creepypasta that stars Sonic.Exe, who is some kind of interdimensional being who thought Sonic was cool, literally. So he took his form to torture souls, and Sonic, the game, Tails, Knuckles, and Eggman in the game are trapped souls or something. It was made by some guy called JC the Hyena, but he was kind of a stinky person, so he lost the rights to it, which was kind of funny. And a fun fact, the story was so bad it got moved to the Troll Pasta Wiki, which is where purposely bad creepypastas are posted. Alright, so here's the Sonic.exe disaster guide part. If you don't want to learn about this, you can just stop watching here. So we're starting off with the EXEs first, and the first one is Sonic.Exe. Well, for his abilities, all EXEs share an attack that lunges you forward and does damage. His does 45 damage, but he can hold his lunge to time his hits better. He's also faster than every killer. Then there's Laugh. Then there's Teleport, which lets him set up teleport points and then teleport them to later. And then there's Invisibility, which is basically his aura finding ability, which lets him see all survivors on the map and place decoys around, but he cannot attack while invisible. Then there's a Spin Dash, which he masters the charge up, and then once he charges it up, he runs really fast, and then he deals 5 damage to anyone he runs into. Next, we have Colossus, an original character for this game, and he's like the brute of this game, so he moves the slowest but deals the most damage. His lunge, it does 65 damage, but he can't hold it, and also he has a longer cooldown on his attack than every other killer. Then there's Grab, which, if you land it on a survivor, it holds the survivor in his hands, which prevents them from moving and using their abilities, and he can pummel them for extra damage until they're down. And then if they don't get picked up in time, they just kind of die in his arms. Then there's Charge, which is his mobility move, which, unlike Spin Dash, you can't control, but it's instant and just launches you in a direction, and he deals 25 damage to anyone you run into it with. Then there's Block, which just reduces stun times if timed correctly. And last is Indicator, which is just simple locating of survivors on the map. But you can attack with this one, unlike Invisibility. Last for the EXEs and killers is Hailsdoll. He's the second fastest. His lunge attack only deals 40 damage. He has Fly, which allows him to fly in any direction for 5 seconds. It also makes him the fastest character in the game, instead of the second fastest. Then there's Trap, which lays a red aura circle on the ground that drains survivors' health after a short startup. Next is Slash, which works like the attack, but if landed, instead of causing straight damage, it causes survivors to bleed and drain health, which makes them move at also a half at speed. And also, they can't jump while bleeding. Then there's Indicator, which is the exact same as Colossus's ability. Now, starting off with survivors is Tails. He's a ranged stunner and requires teammates to protect him. He has Glide, which allows him to fly for a short bit at a slight faster speed. Then there's Arm Cannon, which is a ranged stun that has a 0.2 second delay from when you click when it actually fires. And if you land it, then it stuns the EAC for 3 seconds. You can also sprint by holding shift. Most survivors have 100 HP. When they lose all their HP for the first time, they are down and need to be revived. Then if they lose their HP again, they die and they become a minion for the EXE, but they don't have to. Next is Knuckles. He's a frontline stunner. His first move is Punch, which, if landed, stuns the EXE for 3 seconds. Then there's Block, which, if timed correctly, can prevent a hit and bounce the attacker back. This works on Charge and Spin Dash as well. He's very simple to understand, but he's kind of hard to play as. Third, we have Eggman, my personal favorite. He's a backline support character, like Tails, struggles to defend himself. First, he has Zapper, which is a ranged stun ability that, after a 3 second charge, you can shoot the EXE in it, and if you hit, it slows him down. This is hit scan on like any other ranged ability in this game. Sorry. Then he has Jetpack Boost, which can charge up, and the more you charge, the more horizontally you move, and the less vertically you move. So basically, if you were just to tap the ability, you would just launch up straight, but you wouldn't move any forward. But if you hold it for a few seconds, you would launch forward only, no directional upwards. Then there's Turret, which he can place up to 5 on the map, and if the EXE is in the range of the turret, it slows them down. But they do require being built first, and they require being maintained since they lose power as they shoot. They can also be hit down by the EXEs. You can also remove them by pressing Q if they're in a bad spot. Fourth is Amy. She's a frontline stunner. She does have a ranged move though, but that one's harder to hit. Her first move is Hammer Attack, which is like Knuckles Punch, but a bit slower and with a bigger hitbox. Also forgot to mention in Knuckles section that his punch is basically instant when he presses the button. Then there's Hammer Spin, which makes Amy spin around with her hammer, knocking any EXE away, which this also does slow her down, by the way. Then there's Hammer Throw, which is a projectile attack that, if landed, stuns the EXE for 3 seconds. And after throwing your hammer, all your other abilities are replaced by Roll, and they go on cooldown. Roll is her ability if she doesn't have her hammer, and it simply just gives her iframes for a short bit. Also, if she throws her hammer into a void, she just loses her hammer for the rest of the match, just stuck with Roll. Fifth is Cream. She's another support character. Her first is Speed Boost, which makes her move faster for a total of around 12 seconds. Then there's Overheal, which gives a damage survivor 10 HP that can go above their max. This health decays very quickly over time. She can also use her boost to dash out of the way while overhealing, but this puts her speed boost on cooldown. It doesn't give her any speed afterwards. Six is Sally. She's also another support character. She has a shield and gift shield. Shield gives Sally the currently selected shield, and gift shield gives a selected shield to a teammate that only lasts half so long. She can switch between 3 shields. The first is regular, which just gives speed boost and iframes when broken, so it's the best defense-wise. Then there's Bubble, which allows you to bounce up from the ground to a higher location by pressing space in the air. Then there's Fire Shield, which allows you to dash forward instead while pressing space midair. Every shield except the regular one doesn't give speed frames, speed boost, or iframes. The seventh character is Shadow. He's basically, he does whatever he wants, but I think he's mostly a midliner. He has homing attack, which launches him in the air slightly, and then you can aim wherever you want, but you can't aim up or down, and then you click the space button to launch yourself in that direction. And if you hit the EXE, you get bounced away from each other, and they're stunned for a short bit. Then there's Boost, which just like launches you very high up in the air and horizontally. Space while mid boost to stomp down quickly and push away any EXEs in this blast radius that are on the ground. Eighth is Rouge. She's like a support slash stunner sort of. Her first ability is Sensor, which basically she can place up to 10 around the map, and the sensors reveal survivors and EXEs, but EXEs do break the sensors when they are detected by them. Next is Slide, which is basically the same as Amy's role. Then there's Flashbang, which when used drops a flashbang that blows up after a short delay, blinding and slowing down any EXE in the blast zone. This can slow down multiple EXEs like minions and stuff. Lastly is a remote trap, which he sets down like the sensor, but is slower. Then, after a short cooldown, like 4 or 5 seconds, she can detonate the traps, blowing back any EXEs and stunning them for a short time. She can also disarm it, which massively shortens the cooldown, and basically it's just a repositioning ability. Ninth is Metal Sonic, and he's like the main frontliner. He's special because he has 50 more HP compared to the regular survivor's 100 HP. He has Grapple, which is like a close but also ranged ability, and when landed, it brings the EXE quickly to Metal, which basically uses to pull the EXE away from survivors. Then there's Push, which speeds up Metal slightly and makes him invincible. And if he runs into the EXE, he picks him up and carries with him until the ability ends, which is like 2.5 seconds. And lastly is the Self-Destruct, which can only be activated after he's been downed and revived for the first time. And once activated, it starts like a 3-second cooldown. And any EXEs close to him get stunned for 4 seconds and are blown far back. This ability kills Metal, by the way. 10th is Metal, who's... Shit. 10th is Silver, who is another support character. He can also stun with Orb, which is a ranged projectile that, if landed, stuns the EXE for 1 second. Then there's Speed Aura, which gives him and any nearby survivors a speed increase, but his boost is slightly slower. Then there's Barrier, which is a situational ability, which allows him to place a small barrier that blocks the EXE's path, but not survivor's path. Last but not least is Blaze. She's a frontliner. She has Fire Tornado, which makes her move slightly faster for a few seconds and lets her repeatedly stun EXE for half-second intervals. Then she has Heat Wave, which boosts her speed while she has it active. And she can hold it for like 8 seconds, and then she can click to launch the Heat Wave that catches any EXEs in its path, dragging the EXEs across in the air for however long the duration of Heat Wave is. Shit, that was a terrible take, but I don't care. I'm not doing any more takes for this shit. Any general info that I may have missed, I already covered the Survivor HP stuff. The revive stuff, you only have 30 HP, 35 HP once revived. And once Survivor dies, they become minions and they hit for 15 damage apiece, but they lose any other abilities I described. And there's also several maps, but the slideshow has already taken me long enough to make anyways. I'm not going to really explain those in depth with slides, but I will tell you the names. There's like Hill, it's like a green hill zone. Then there's You Can't Run, which is like Scrap Brain Zone. Then there's like Hide and Seek Act 1, which is like a Fiery Angel Island zone. Next is Hide and Seek Act 2, which is like a big ass cave map. Then there's Space, which is like Eggman's base, but all ruined and stuff. There's also which is another ruined Eggman base. Yeah, he gets two. The goat. Then last we have Not Perfect, which is like the Sonic 1 special stage, which transitions to like a dark version of Hill, which I'm not sure how that's even possible, but it is. So anyways, that's basically everything I get to cover about Sonic.Exe Disaster without like spending, I don't know, like 10 minutes putting any more effort into this shit. So goodbye, and I hope you actually like find this game interesting enough from this crappy description. Toodles.